My name is Hummer, and today I'm on my way to University College London to meet Peter Fonagy. It's impossible to summarise Peter's career and achievements in 2 minutes. His CV has close to 100 pages. He's a psychoanalyst and a clinical psychologist and chief executive of the Anna Freud Centre. He's probably known by all mental health professionals in the UK, and his impact on clinical work is enormous. During high school, I went through depression, quite severe depression, and self-harm. And I've also have a genetic disorder which has led to mental health problems too. From then on, I've been really passionate about getting involved in mental health research. My research interests include young people's mental health, and I'm also interested in clinical research. I think mental health services aren't tailored to young people. I don't think professionals have the knowledge to treat young people who have been through a variety of problems. I'm really interested to hear about Peter's experience in mental health research and his career so far. I'd really like to know about his opinion on bridging the gap between clinical research and social research, and I know there's a huge gap between it, and I know he's quite passionate about linking the two together. So thanks, Peter, for taking part in this interview today.
I'm delighted.
It's lovely to meet you. So did you always want to work in the field of mental health, or was there a specific time point in your life when you decided that this was what you wanted to do?
I had mental health problems my own. When I was 16, 17, I emigrated from France. Originally I'm from Hungary, but I emigrated from France to here. I couldn't speak any English, I didn't have any friends, and I got quite depressed, in fact, really seriously depressed. And then I went to a clinic that down called the Hampstead Child Therapy Clinic. I had therapy there, and I benefited enormously from it, and that kind of set me on a path, even though at the time I didn't know it, but that this was what I was going to do.
Can you tell us about mentalization-based treatment and why you are especially interested in this form of treatment?
Mentalization-based treatment is not really a new type of treatment. It's an aspect of, I think, most talking therapies in mental health. In certain states of mind, particularly in states of high arousal, we have limited access to how other people see the world, and indeed how we see ourselves. Why do people bully people? Well, they can't influence each other through a kind of by a conversation, so they create an emotional reaction in another person by doing things to them. And that's an indication of an absence of mentalizing. And in mentalization-based treatment, what we try and do is to increase an individual's capacity, their robustness in thinking about how others see the world and about how they see themselves. So my task is to try and see the world as you see the world. So my task here would be to try and understand what's it like for you being with this odd Hungarian kind of person who is kind of talking about things to you that half of which you understand, half of which you don't understand, and you want to get through the interview, and it's how we're going to make any sense of any of this. So for me to really appreciate that and see your personal narrative, and to be able to make clear to you that my version of your personal narrative is similar to the version that you have. And if I achieve that, then we have a kind of match.
So I come from a clinical neuroscience background, and I'm now working in mental health research. The gap between the both always strikes me, despite how linked they are. What progress do you think has been made in the integration of neuroscience and psychology in mental health?
In my career, it's been one of those things that people said, we're just round the corner, and any time now, real soon now, there will be some real benefit from neuroimaging to mental health service delivery. And I'm kind of willing to believe that, and my own research is on the edge of it, but I also want to be certain that there are two things that are understood. One is that the brain is the organ of the mind, and that studying the brain will actually advance our understanding of mind and mental health problems. That's a given. But secondly, I think it's also important that we recognize that a person who comes with a bunch of problems is a person in a social context. And my great anxiety about neuroscience is that because of the methodology of neuroscience, sometimes the extent to which we are all defined by the social context that we live in gets forgotten. And it's extraordinarily difficult for us to have a neuroscience that's genuinely depicting the interaction of brains. Now, maybe that'll happen, but to me, that's a real gap between the progress that neuroscience can make on the one hand, and that a true understanding of other human beings will achieve at any point. A lot of the people that I work with, one of the difficulties sometimes that they have is they feel poorly understood by others, and actually oftentimes they struggle to understand how others see the world. It's somewhere in that social domain that I feel that we should be placing people's psychological difficulties or mental disorders.
Okay. What do you think are the main barriers to improve population mental health as we see it today?
I think more help to parents in bringing up children is really, really important. You know, who do I blame for the possibility that there may be a massive increase in the prevalence of mental disorder in modern society? Originally, I blame a guy called Stevenson, who you might not have heard of, but he's the guy who invented the locomotive that broke up families, extended families, and made for kind of nuclear families, which probably evolutionarily we are not really designed to bring up children in that kind of very restricted social environment. We need grandparents and cousins and uncles and aunts and really an extended family to provide children and young people with a whole range of minds that understand them, because that's how their capacity to understand others develops. The worries I have are things like social media. When you're in contact with another person through social media, you don't touch them physically. Now, I think actually part of that bodily contact is part of our capacity to develop understanding of others, mentalizing, that young people maybe lose out on, given the environment that they live in at the moment.
What do you consider as the most important advancement in mental health understanding and prevention in the past 2 decades?
You mean other than my own contributions? Well, shame. No, I would not include my own contribution in this. I think the most important recognition is really at the interface of genetics and brain development. What I'm kind of interested in now is how the likelihood that a particular gene becomes active in an individual relates to the kind of environmental experience they have. And I think we are at the cusp of really understanding how vulnerability to social experience may actually be one of the things that's inherited, and particular vulnerabilities to particular social experiences will, I think, ultimately lead us to be able to do prevention properly. We'll be able to identify what risk I carry for what environmental experience that can actually be prevented. These are, I think, the advances that will make the difference to interventions in the future.
So where would you like mental health to have advanced to in 10 years' time?
In 10 years, well, it's a very short time span. You know, in evolutionary terms, it's a blink. But I hope that your generation will be able to integrate interventions that are based on social relationships with the biology that we learn about mental disorders. I do not think that biology necessarily holds the answer to interventions, because I think largely it should be by prevention, and the treatment also needs to have a social aspect. But I think biology does hold the answer to identifying the kind of social interventions that will make a difference in an individual's life.
So I think it's fair to say you've had a really successful career in mental health. Reflecting on that, is there anything you would have done differently or changed?
If I had a successful career, I've been incredibly lucky. And I've been lucky because of the colleagues that I've worked with. And if I could have changed something, I would have worked with even more people and even more settings, and benefited even more from collaborations that I had. If I have any message to you at the beginning of your career, find really good collaborators that are also good friends, would be my single advice.